let's get into these gameplay changes. So this is where they start out. Overall gravity has been reduced by 25%. It does not affect shockwave, spring step, featherfall, or bedrock fall speed. This makes going airborne more of a commitment, puts the player more at risk for being shot down, so you're a little more floaty. After seeing how the change to wind jumping worked, we felt comfortable extending this wider. So they tested it out basically with the Tempest changes and in the mid-chapter 1 update, and then Wind Surge no longer has a 35% gravity reduction. So basically it's reduced back down to this 25% level, the same as everyone else. So that's pretty interesting. And then increase cast speed for all spells and sorceries other than Lightning Bolt and Wind Shear by 18%. So this is a massive change. This basically, you know, Fervor's gone in the talents in chapter 2, but basically we have Fervor on everything almost, except for lightning and wind, and they'll get into all those changes later, but I think both of those are 15% increase, so even those are going to be faster than what the default was before, but very interesting. It's going to have a really interesting effect on like time to kill in the game, or time to exile. Speed up drop recovery animation duration when falling from a portal or respawn, to 1 second from 1.34 second, made it slightly more responsive to account for the increased amount of falling that's going on in Dominion and with Resurrection. So if you weren't in a stream the other day, they're adding Resurrection also to Battle Royale. So you're just going to be able to, once it's going to be based on the storm circles. So once you get to a new storm circle, you're going to be able to just hit F or the use button if you're on console. And that's going to, I think you have to hold it for a few seconds, and it's cooldown based on the storm circles. So that is super interesting, and then your teammates will fall out of the sky then, and they won't have any loot anymore. So, and that's only in the Battle Royale for Chapter 2. So let's go back a little bit here. And then in Dominion, basically, I think every time you either like respawn from being exiled and going into the merchant, or if you just recall to the merchant, you also fall again, I think. Pretty sure that's right. So potions, reduced knowledge potion drop rate, so they're going to be rarer. So even when they're in Dominion, they're going to be rarer than what they were before. Knowledge potion now takes 3 seconds to consume rather than 1 second. They were fun while they lasted. It's time to dial them back. Safeguard potion got a bit of a buff. 4 seconds to consume, down from 5 seconds. So those are going to be better. Ooh, large safeguard potions also. 6 seconds from 8 seconds. That's actually a huge buff, because that's like almost what the regular safeguard was before. Oh, they went too fast. Safeguards took a little too long to drink for the amount they healed, so we sped them up 20%. That's actually huge. It's going to make it much easier to get a reset. Something I did notice watching all the... Here, let me turn my camera back on here. I was just hidden some of the text here. Maybe I can move over to this. Move it over. Move it underneath them, maybe. Try not to hide Jesse. One thing I noticed watching some of and listening to some of the other content creator feedback about Dominion today, the people that got to play it, were there was a lot of recalling back to the vendor to like get a health reset off, basically. So if you're not actively fighting and trying to hold a capture point, maybe you can tag out to one of your teammates, like say, hey, can you hold the moon zone for a sec? I'm gonna recall to get a health reset off or something after you like wipe out the other team when they pushed or something. There's a lot of that going on in the preview today, so that's interesting. Some strategic use of the recall. So there's also changes to runes, so largely decrease the ability for players to reset or escape fights entirely with runes. So, you know, those times where you just are like chasing someone across the map over and over and over again with the flight rune, those are long gone now. So they went really fast here, but I think they sit and talk about them a little bit. Some of these, we have the numbers here, but maybe watching some more of those gameplay videos from today. You know, we're also going to get a couple of preview events next week, and we'll probably see some more media and other information. We'll get a little bit better feel for some of these, because just looking at the numbers and listening to their description of it before doesn't totally give you the best idea of what these changes actually are. But let me rewind with all that said. I can't, if I pause, it like hides everything, which is kind of annoying. I didn't have a chance to save this video. These changes, oh, we read that. Okay, increase featherfall cooldown by 2 seconds across rarities. So that basically makes it less likely for people to just float up in the air and then immediately float back up in the air once they hit the ground, which is really annoying. I've sometimes seen people with like a legendary featherfall like do that across the whole map, like they never even barely touching the ground. Next, increased teleport wind up. So that's the animation when you're doing it. So this, I think this is a reverse from what they just did in the last patch. So it's now up to 1 second from 0.6 seconds. Reduce teleport cooldown by 2 seconds across rarity. So that's interesting. They made the animation for it longer, but the cooldown's actually smaller. That actually probably brings it back in line with a lot of other things, but teleports can be really powerful with that. Teleport, I think, is already going to be pretty powerful in Dominion. You're going to be able to pop in and out of capture points, make a push, escape. But that 2 second cooldown decrease is definitely going to help that too. Reduce flight rune duration to 3.5 seconds from 5 seconds. Wow, I missed that actually when I watched them talk about this live. That's actually a pretty big deal. That's really going to help do exactly what they say at the top there, kind of help people just constantly running from fights. It's going to keep you in the action. You might be able to pull back, and especially with those increased potion safeguard, especially potion buffs that we just talked about, you might be able to pull back and get a quick reset off that way, but you're not just going to be running across the whole map. Reduced invisibility duration of Shadow Step from 1 second or to 1 second from 2 seconds. That is a massive nerf to Shadow Step. So really interesting there. We'll get into how that affects Toxic and toxicologists and their outbreak damage in a minute. We weren't quite done. Our beloved Spring Step is getting a nerf. Okay. So you're going to be invisible less for Shadow Step. So you're basically only going to be invisible. I don't know the timing on your kind of teleport dash whatever forward in Shadow Step, but it's not long. And you're now basically only going to be invisible for that dash forward, and then just like a little tiny bit more, really. So pretty big nerf to Shadow Step and to Toxicologist because of how useful that is. So Spring Step no longer maintains speed through levitation. Oh no. We're talking so much. We keep getting pulled back. Okay. No longer maintains speed through levitation. So that I think is talking about like if you hold levitation out of the spring step, currently you maintain the momentum of the spring step into your levitation. So that sounds to me like you're no longer going to carry that levitation once the actual spring step, or like once the levitation goes into effect. So once you hit your jump button or the space bar if you're on PC, that momentum is gonna cut out. So pretty interesting. That actually is a pretty big nerf to spring step. It's going to make it a lot harder to just bounce all over the place, bounce away people. You know exactly what they say at the top there. And then also increased horizontal speed and distance of spring step. So spring step's going to be more of like a dash forward. And so that's kind of interesting. It takes out the momentum and ability to like continue levitating more with it into that momentum, but they did also increase the distance it will take you. But it only increased the horizontal distance, not really the vertical at all. So pretty interesting change to spring step. Spring step is my favorite rune and has been for quite a while. So I will be definitely looking at VODs of people's hands-on time today more, and trying to get a sense of how I need to adjust my own playstyle with that. Classes and gauntlets. Okay, spell damages other than ice lands are being changed across the board to make more rare gauntlets and more rare gauntlets more powerful than they were previously. Details below in the relevant sections. Okay, so basically everything other than ice lands, the gauntlet rarity is gonna affect damage more than what it currently does. Mana costs are now consistent across rarities. Generally speaking, mana cost is now equivalent to the old rare gauntlet. Okay. So mana cost is now flat across all rarities. So before, as you went up in rarity, your mana cost decreased. So now it's just flat as what the old blue gauntlets were. So that's pretty even. They're trying to simplify some of the stats. I think that's a good change. Especially, it makes sense, especially because in Dominion, the new game mode, you are... you don't have amulets that you can get. You can get blessings to increase your mana pool, but by default, everyone kind of has the equivalent of about a blue rare amulet. So pretty interesting. Let's see what they say here down at the bottom. Adjusting your muscle memory. That's all I memorized before I rewound a little bit too far here. Adjusting your muscle memory to lowering mana costs while upgrading your amulet felt awkward at best. Standardizing them across rarities lets players strategize around their mana bar in a more straightforward way and makes increases to max mana feel more impactful. Sorcery, so that's pretty interesting. Sorcery cooldowns are lowered at higher rarities, detailed in relevant sections. Okay. And they haven't yet. They said they were gonna post this on Reddit like tomorrow or over the weekend, basically. Since there's a lot going on today with all the people doing gameplay. But once that's up, I will try to add that to the description of this video. Oops, what did that say at the very bottom? On the other hand, sorcery is not improving as rarity increase was always a head scratcher. Why doesn't it get better over time? Now it does. Oh, okay. So, okay, now we're into class and gauntlet changes. This is where it's just getting interesting. I mean, those are already actually some pretty interesting changes. Oh no. I'm noticing as I'm going back and forth here that my browser capture is kind of glitching out. Sorry about that. Conduit lightning gauntlet. Okay, lightning bolts damage is now 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 from 7, 8, 9, 9, 10. So buff. Lightning Bolt's mana cost is now 9, which is the lower end of what it was before. Lightning Strike's cooldown is now 18, 16, 15, 14, 13 from 15 all along before. So interesting, kind of early game nerf of Lightning Strike, but when Lightning Strike becomes really powerful later in the match, then it goes up. Lightning Strike now does 25 damage on hit, up from 20. So buff, but you know, also kind of nerfed, especially early game in that previous point. I can't remember if there's more on Lightning and Conduit than that. Nope, that's it. So interesting. I think less of a change to Lightning than what we maybe thought it was going to be originally. Okay, Frostborn. This one is good. I'm actually super excited for these Frostborn and Frost Gauntlet changes. So Ice Lance's mana cost is now 24 to 48, depending on charge duration, from 30 to 60, 27 to 54, 24 to 48, 21 to 42, 20 to 40. So it's now just that flat. It's just kind of like the middle, like we said, like the rare before. Flash Freeze's cooldown is now 18, 16, 15, 14, 13 from 15. So similar to Conduit in that kind of progression over the length of the match. Frozen Alacrity now grants Ice Lance leaves trails. Now grants Ice Lance leaves trails. 150% faster acceleration on ice trails. Immune to slow frozen. Oh, so this is the level 1, right? So basically because they took Harmony out of the game, they basically just added Harmony to the Frozen Alacrity. So pretty big deal there. Icicle no longer grants Ice Lance hover in midair while aiming for 5 seconds, but they added that part of it to all classes. So basically, whenever you're using a Frost Gauntlet, you're going to automatically hover in the air while you're charging. That's huge. I mean, that's a massive buff just to the Frost Gauntlet in general. I think Frost is going to be pretty powerful in Dominion, but adding that, I didn't get a chance to see too much Frost gameplay when I was watching people play earlier, but I'm excited to go check out some VODs later and scope it out. Because, I mean, that's huge. It just gives you, especially because, you know, we talked about things being a little bit more floaty with that lower gravity change. Yeah, super exciting. And Harmony basically built in. And they did clarify too that it was going to be, oops, what was that last little bit? Freezing is against any sort of freezing. So it takes out the other kind of CC like shock and stuff of Harmony. But there is, let's see, where's my talent sheet here? Let me have a printout of all the different talents. I think the new, let's try to catch this one tiny bit at the bottom they skipped over. Okay, this behavior being tied to a class felt very inconsistent, made it more difficult to swap between them in a way that didn't happen with other class abilities. It also highlights the risk slash reward of a sniping playstyle. So that's an interesting little insight into the kind of game design, gameplay decisions they're making with that. Ice Lane's projectiles are no longer blocked by toxic spray or other Ice Lance projectiles. So you can't like hit ice with ice. I mean, it's pretty hard to do anyways, right? It's a tiny projectile. But there was some times where people would be spamming toxic back at you while you're trying to snipe them from like a closer range, although, you know, Tux has a pretty long range. Fixed ice lance occasionally looking like it's being fired from behind the player firing it. Oh, so that's like a bug that we've had for a bit. So that's nice. These aren't the full patch notes either. I think they said next Tuesday we're going to get a full patch notes streams. This is just the game balance changes because we were having hands-on with the content creators that they gave early access to today. We're gonna have hands-on with it, so they wanted them to know what all the class and balance changes were. So that's all we're going over today. Various fixes for rubber banding caused by ice skating. So they've tried to fix that a number of times, but it sounds like they did some more work. Hopefully they really nailed it this time, because that has been annoying. Okay, Pyro. Okay, fireball damage is now 25, 30, 34, 38, 42, and you can see what it was there before. So it's like a slight tweak. It's actually a buff at the end. 36 from 30 at the very end. Maybe, I don't know, actually. No, it's not. It's not. Okay, Fireball's mana cost is now 17, so again, kind of that middle of the road. Flame Wall's cooldown is now 18, 16, 15, 14, 13 from 15, so more powerful as you progress through the match. I think a lot of these changes are going to also make, especially in Dominion, make Gilded very powerful, because it really is going to let you level up all these things and increase your damage output. Basically, reading scrolls is the new damage mod if you're running Gilded. Okay. Damage from lingering flames increased to 18 damage per second, ticking every go back every 0.33 seconds, up from 12 damage per second, ticking every 0.5 seconds. So that's one of those things that's a little bit of a head scratcher there. I run Pyro, like Pyro is my main in Battle Royale and has been, but like since September at full launch. So, but hold on here. Let me try to like wrap my head around this. So much information today. I feel like it's like with all this stuff, when we have like breaking news, they just released all this giant like just dump of information. It's gonna take some time for like me, the community, everyone to kind of wrap their head around things, get their hands on the new update and kind of feel things out over time too. So lingering flames, so that would be like if you shoot your fireball to the ground and someone touches it, or I believe it would be a flame wall too, or if you're like lighting Dragonfire, although it's a whole separate thing that I think has some points here, but later. Increased to 18 damage per second, ticking every 0.33 seconds. So this is a buff actually, right? Because it was 12 damage per second every half second before. So basically people stepping into fire around the map does more damage more frequently. So Pyro buff. I missed that earlier. Again, it was just like this like flood of information. Ground flames were more of an annoyance than a threat. This makes standing in fire bad, like it should be. Interesting. I know there's also, I don't remember if it's, oh yeah, it must be in the Toxic, but I think Dragonfire also got some tweaks to it. I heard some people that tried out Dragonfire in the gameplay test today really enjoyed it, so that also is what I usually run in Battle Royale. Okay, so Stone. So we've known for a while now that Stone is getting a big buff, right? Well, here it is. I think looking back at all these changes, I think when Seth teased that one other class and Gauntlet were getting big changes, I think that was probably Ice. But Stone Shaper definitely got some buffs here. So damage up at the higher end, really high, oh my gosh, 50. Those are Gauntlet rarities, so Leggy, Shockwave, very powerful. Mana cost 21, once again, middle of the road. Boulder Falls cooldown. What it was just regularly is now what it is when you have the highest level, which that's interesting. So a little bit of a nerf there, honestly, but I think the damage from the shockwave stone slams kind of makes up for it, because you're gonna use that more anyways. Oh, but then you see this boulder fall now does 30 to 50 max damage based on distance travelers. So I think the more that it travels, the higher damage it's gonna do. That's gonna prevent people from just like going in your face and spamming boulders, which is nice. Boulder fall wind up animation takes 65% longer now. So wow, that's pretty interesting. That's kind of like that part of it is kind of a nerf. It's like a recalculating more than like it's a nerf of that part, but overall it's sort of a restructuring of the Stone Shaper class. So bouldering someone up close was an incredibly powerful burst and nearly instant. We've increased minimum damage a boulder can do while also making it slower to cast. So yeah, prevents you from just getting right up in someone's face. You're gonna have to kind of work a range now more for it. And you're gonna have to pay a little bit more time to cast penalty. Stone Skin skill now grants your max armor plus 20, so you can refill your entire armor. If you have zero, you got down to 0 armor, just with Stone Skin you could build it all the way back up to what your max current armor is, plus 20. But with Shockwave, the Stone Skin ability, but you only do it plus 3 at a time. So you're going to be really spamming that Stone Skin. You know, we did talk about the other day when we looked at other gameplay footage that it looks like the animation for Stone's Slam Shockwave has been sped up a little bit. They cut out kind of like that beginning wind up, especially when it's an offhand. And you know, obviously it gets the increased spellcasting speed that everything except for lightning and wind get. So pretty interesting. Let's see here. Let's try to skip ahead. Oh, I think they had one little tiny more bit there that they added. Maybe not. We'll see. Sometimes there's been one. Oh, there. Oh, oh my gosh, they go right by it. Well, it's a sub note. It's probably like an explanation of what we just talked about, kind of. Okay, it's Tempest. Some changes here. Some big changes, I think. Okay, Wind Shear's damage is now 7, 9, 10, 12, 13. So a boost at the very top there. Wind Shear's mana is now 9. Tornado's cooldown. So higher in the beginning, lower towards the end. Increase cast speed for Wind Shear by 15%. So everyone else except Wind and Lightning is getting an 18% buff, or 18% cast speed increase. Wind and Lightning, I think, are only getting 15. So it's sort of like Fervor built in, but like a little bit of a reduced speed from Fervor, because Fervor was what, 20%, right? Keeping in line with the cast speed improvements, but just slightly less than everything else. And this is going to help prevent some of kind of the excessive wind spam that we've seen since the last kind of Tempest tweak. I think that was in the last patch. So, okay, and then Squall is changing too. So Squall no longer grants its bonuses while in the air, but rather is now triggered based on Updraft or Wind Surge. So it now reads, on Updraft or Wind Surge, spell damage plus 20%. On Updraft or Wind surge incoming damage reduction plus 10%. So basically right now in the current patch, you can just kind of bunny hop up, or anytime you're up in the air, you're falling off a building, anything like that at all, you're getting the 20% spell damage buff and 10% damage reduction. Now that's only going to happen when you're intentionally using your Tempest power to make those changes and put yourself up in the air. So it's actually kind of similar to the other changes that they did. I'm trying to remember what those were now. Oh, they were the talents, where they're trying to make you have to do something in order to get the reward and damage increase, rather than just getting it for free, making it about strategy, making it about like using skills to get damage buffs rather than just free damage buffs. Man, I wish they would do something. We've been playing a lot of Splatoon on the channel. I wish Splatoon would do something like that for their damage buffs. Because main power up in that game is bleh. Okay, let's see here. I think they're going into everything I just said. I'm super into game design and kind of details and thought process that, so I do want to see what that last little bit was. They keep skipping that last little bit. We sort of knew this was an experimental change when we made it originally. With the decreased gravity, it exacerbated further, so we dialed it back to be triggered by ability. Okay, that makes sense. I didn't even think about the gravity change, the little bit more floatiness. Toxicologist and Toxic Gauntlet. Okay, damage 30, 36, 41, 46, 51. Wow, that's an increase at the top there. Pretty big one. Toxic Spray's mana cost is now 17. Toxic Cloud's cooldown. Same thing we've seen with the other gauntlets. Like a nerf in the beginning of the game and then buff at the end. All really interesting change. That change is really interesting, especially in Dominion, right? Damage from toxified clouds, puddles, tornadoes has been increased to 18 damage per second, ticking every 0.33. So similar to that fire puddle damage. Previously 12 damage per second, ticking 0.5 per second. So puddles are actually going to be more powerful, do more damage more frequently than what they did. They don't mention anything here really about corrosion though. I don't remember if they say anything else. This is damage though, not just corrosion. I'm actually I'm gonna have to watch them those VODs closely and see that, because I'm not sure. Because currently, right, stepping in a toxic puddle, that corrosion damage only happens to armor, not to health, right? Or once it eats through your armor, then it goes to health. I can't remember off the top of my head. Okay. Anyways, though, so then we get to the Dragonfire at the very end here. Ignited clouds now do up to 3 ticks of 16 damage every 0.33 seconds, compared to previously up to 2 ticks of damage every 0.5 seconds. So again, buff, kind of. It takes a little bit longer because it's every 0.3, so over the full second you would get more damage than before, but it just takes more time. It gives the opponent some opportunity to get away from it, maybe. People did say in their hands-on today, though, that Dragonfire felt really good, so excited to get my hands on it. Obviously. We're almost done here, I think. There's some folks in the community that are going to be really upset about this. I think I heard Toxie, it's his new name, Crashy on his stream, say he's going to be a toxicologist main because I mean, he's been very vocal about his thoughts about toxic since the game released. But well, here, let's read these little things here at the bottom. But his opinion was that toxic is just the strongest gauntlet in the game, and this just makes it more so. I think that Shadow Step nerf is not insignificant though. But I guess we'll see. We'll see how the meta plays out. You know, they can always adjust stats like this. I think a lot of these stats too, they haven't confirmed this, but they've been working long term to be able to decrease or increase their ability to kind of change these balance stats just server side, like with a server hotfix, rather than have to do a full client update. So I believe that is in chapter 2. I would love to have confirmation of that from them because that would let them just like change balance on the fly. We do know that they did make those changes, the ability to change and tweak matchmaking on the server, and also the rank system. So I would assume that that would also carry over to these kind of stat changes for talents, and they probably couldn't change a full talent or add talents, I don't think, but they could probably change the stats for it, I imagine. Okay, so with the ignited clouds, they wanted the elemental interaction to have its bite back, so buff. It's hard to pull off, needs to be rewarded. As such, good players would get hit for only 20. Now they get hit for 16 to 32. Bad players got hit for 40. They now get hit for 32 to 48. So yeah, you're gonna be able to escape Dragonfire, but if you don't, it's gonna really hurt. Fixed toxic puddles causing massive damage if someone rapidly moved in and out of them. Okay, so that was like a bug. I didn't see that happen too often, but there was some glitchiness sometimes with the slowdown that happens when people are in toxic puddles. Sometimes I have seen that, but I don't think I've ever personally seen anyone moving in and out. Okay. That's it. That's all there is. I mean, there's some big changes, some really big changes. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was informative. If you have any questions, if you have any thoughts on the balance changes, let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up button. It really, really helps me out. We're creating a happy little gaming community here that's fun, inclusive, supportive, non-toxic. I hope that sounds good to you. If it does too, hit that subscribe button and join us. We got a lot more Spellbreak content coming. We're going to be following everything with chapter 2. We're going to be playing together next week. I'm so excited to get my hands on Dominion. Maybe we can all do some, like, if we get enough viewers and stuff, we can join up, play some viewer games, some unranked games maybe. And have some fun in Dominion together, since it's now 5 players on a team and you can squad up with 5 people. So even in Clash before, you could only squad up with 3 people, so that's pretty fun. Definitely looking forward to that. And just could not be more excited about Spellbreak chapter 2. It's going to be a game changer, like just flat out. But we'll talk to you later. Thanks so much for watching. Go click the link. Bye.